Story 1. 1. 5K. R. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you, ancient_educator_76. 1 day ago. We can't refund you. SOC. Trying to return or exchange a rather large item that costs about $280 to Marlboro Freight. In the tool area. I let them know that I just didn't have a need for it. I had my receipt. I promise I was a decent man about this. I didn't see the sign when I asked her if I could return my item. She decided she wasn't having it today and sharply and rapidly tapped on the plexiglass and level of body odor that separated us. She got super stern and said, "No refunds unless there's something wrong with the item." Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. The lady would nt budge on her ironclad Sharpie written sign saying, "No exchanges. No refunds unless there's a problem." Very vague sign that allowed for malicious compliance. She started looking around me to the next customer as if I wasn't there. I thought on my feet and stepped in her view again. Like him guarding that Euro-stepping man from Greece. "Ma'am, so you're saying that something has to be wrong with it, so should I break it or draw on it with that Sharpie?" Quote. "Don't be a flipping idiot, you know what the sign means." Quote. I really didn't have the patience for this. So I put the finishing move on by saying to the person behind me, "Hey, it says I can't return this unless there's a problem. If I don't leave right now, would that be a problem?" Quote. Customer 2 behind me picked up on it pretty quickly by saying, "Oh yeah, that'll be a problem. Looks like there's a problem." She said it loud enough for customer service lady to hear. I turned back to customer service lady and said, "Yeah, there's a problem." Quote. She ripped down her sign, looked at the third person enter the line and decide to spend the remaining 1% of our time together returning the item. I went on my merry way. I know I was a bit of a jerk, but this place's customer service department is programmed to be as unwilling to work with us as possible. That was glaringly evident over the 3 years I've been shopping here. 100 comments. Award. Share. Save. 88 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 2. $580. R. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you, Throwaway Cake Guy 1234. 23 hours ago. Rude shopper wants a cake. Instead he gets karma. Lock. Disclaimer. All names have been changed to protect anonymity. I'm a cake decorator for my local grocery store. It's a fun job, if a little hectic at times. My store is located in a small town, which means I don't usually need to deal with all the more terrible customers you typically get at stores in larger cities. This town has been steadily growing, though, so a lot of new people are here. My store is also the best place in town to go to get a cake. And I've spent the last several years of my life getting us that reputation. It is extremely rare for me to have a customer complain about a cake that I prepare or customize. Which is why this encounter sticks out so much. One other thing to note. While we don't have quite as much of them here, I've been in the industry long enough to have absolutely no patience with customers if they are rude or insulting, and as you probably already guessed, this is very relevant. Anyways, today I'm at my station preparing some cakes to stock in our case when this guy comes up to have me personalize a cake, where we put custom writing on that they ask for. We'll call him Dave. Once H has chosen the cake he wants, Dave hands it over to me to add the writing, which I promptly do. My typical style is a form of stylized cursive that looks very nice atop a cake. I never get complaints about it. I leave the cake on the counter for him to pick up once I'm done and return to what I was doing before as he picks up his cake. Just another sale. I say to myself. Dot. 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 Until I see him walking back to the counter. I ask him if there's an issue. Dave's response. No one can read what it says, and it looks bad. It doesn't. And he wants me to rewrite the message. I say okay. I'll need to scrape the top of the cake and that will damage the top. Dot. Dot. I was about to tell him I would need a couple minutes to fix it up. But as he would have you know, Dave doesn't have time for any shenanigans from anyone. And he cuts me off. Now Dave says he doesn't want the cake and he'll pick another one and have that one written on. I roll my eyes internally and ask him which one he wants. He hands me the second cake, which I was planning to write on in a very legible print font, like you see here. But before I can get to work on the cake, he says, and I quote, "And get me someone who can spell." As you wish, master. My patience with Dave completely gone by this point. I tell him to go the front and ask for our assistant store leader, Antoinette, and she can help him. A bit later I see our front-end manager, Donna, who helps us out on occasion when we get behind, coming over to help Dave. Now, Donna is not a decorator, nor is Antoinette, and I never intended to get Donna involved. But that was out of my hands as my other helper was out on break at the time, and I was not pulling him back because of one customer being dumb. I apologized later. I had no intention of embarrassing her. She can write on cakes. But Shush is much slower than me, and all I was trying to do at this point was waste a bit of his time because he was rude to me. He explains what he wants. And I explain why she is doing it and not myself. Since he was so insistent on not wanting my help anymore. I'm not helping him anymore. Donna writes the message on the cake and he heads off again. But then, a few minutes later, Donna comes back with the absolute best case of unintentional cathartic irony. One of the words was misspelled. So now Dave is complaining again and wants the cake fixed again. We do our best to remove the misspelled word, but as I explained before, there's going to be a bit of damage to the top. Sure enough, there was a bit of residue left over from the writing, which is completely impossible to get off, not without re-icing the cake. It's doable, as I was trying to explain to him at one point. But, well, we never got that far. Anyways, since we were unable to get that little bit of residue off. Of course he doesn't want the cake anymore and goes to complain to Antoinette. Now Antoinette is in my back room asking what the deal is. I now explain to her what's going on. Rolling her own eyes internally, Shush is a good person. She starts dabbing at the cake with a paper towel, trying again to get the residue off. When she, too, realizes that it's not possible, she goes out to tell the customer that we can't get it off, and he can either take the blemished cake with the corrected writing or pick another one. Dave is not offered a discount as this whole issue was caused because he didn't like my styling and he never gave me a chance to correct it myself before dismissing me as incompetent. So technically, no one did anything wrong. We were only doing exactly what he asked us to do. After all, fallout. Dave ended up getting a third cake out of the case, not getting it personalized, and storming off muttering furiously to himself. No one got in trouble. Everyone in the room could recognize the guy was being unreasonable. I later fixed the other cakes he had us wreck and returned them to the case. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but I did know this. This guy had just spent 15 minutes trying to bully us into giving him the perfect cake to his tastes. It was way beyond what we usually deal with, only to walk away with nothing but a face full of karma. And it was completely his own fault. 94 comments. Award. Share. Save. 62 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 3. $1. 2K. R. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you, Skyraker Beyond. 1 day ago. 32 cheeseburgers and a free Philly cheesesteak. Lock. since we're sharing our McDonald's experiences. Here's mine. I worked at a small-ish McDonald's in and around 2005, which was situated in the parking lot of a big box store complex. I covered mainly lunch shifts during the summer before transitioning to night shifts after school started back up. I hated all the other part-timers because they were lazy butts. While the lunch crew were a bunch of retired old ladies who needed extra money for bridge gambling. But that's another story. It was a rainy Tuesday when a guy wearing a blue and red jacket stormed in and ordered 32 cheeseburgers. If you've ever worked in fast food, you know that the fryer, flat-top grill, is only so big. You can fry, grill, about 12 regular burger patties at once if you absolutely jam them in there. But at the McDonald's I worked at, we segregated our fryers, so we had one dedicated to chicken and fish products, one dedicated to meats, and a third of the meat fryer, also called the flat-top grill, was dedicated to no salt and pepper. Normally burgers come with salt and pepper put on during the frying process. But some people who frequented our store were allergic, so we had a separate off area for that. This meant we could only do 8 patties at a time. To further cause issues, this guy arrived in the middle of our dinner rush, so we already had orders frying up, and our stock of existing burgers was already out. I'm in the kitchen and I immediately threw more burgers on the fryer, but after that, it was just a waiting game. I can hear this irate burger man ranting at the staff. Our manager would have beat his ass if she'd been there. But we only had a supervisor, and after the man made her cry, I, as the most experienced worker on shift, stepped in to keep things going. I went out front and told the man that we were making the burgers as fast as we could. But obviously there are limits he told us to fuck ourselves with. He then went on a rant about how he needs these burgers to feed his kid's soccer team, and they're waiting in the bus for their dinner. I indicated that we did do catering orders, but we have a phone number precisely for that. He continued to rant at me about how he needed his burgers now, and we should have just already had 32 burgers already cooked and ready, because didn't we know that sometimes people just need 32 burgers and blah blah blah. So I went back and made his burgers, loaded them all up, and handed him over. He took the burgers and then fixed me with a smirk and went, "Where's my Philly cheesesteak?" This was at the time we had a deli counter, something that has long since been phased out. This ingrate did not order a Philly cheesesteak, and we both knew it. But he kept circling back to the customer is always right comment and demanded he had, and we'd just forgotten it, and he demanded that he must get his cheesesteak that he didn't pay for. He threatened that he'd demand his money back if we didn't get him his cheesesteak. Alright, fine. I was the only one in the store who could make deli sandwiches. It was super simple. Everyone else was just inept or lazy or both. Normally we take 2 buns, run them through the toaster, throw on lettuce, take a packet of pre-mix Philly cheesesteak, put in the microwave, nuke for 2 minutes, then drop it on top, sauce it and go. This time I went through all the steps without nuking it, wrapped it all up nicely and handed it off to the guy with a smile. It even heated the bun like normal, so it looked just like a regular Philly. But the meat and cheese were an ice-cold brick. The guy headed off jauntily, got into his bus and presumably distributed his cheeseburgers, then drove off. I headed to the back to see how the supervisor was getting on better, but she wanted to go home for the night. Now, while I was senior in the sense that I took on a lot of responsibility and had experience with this kind of stuff, I was actually quite new to that store. I just had a reputation for not taking shit and being responsible, so I wasn't actually authorized to close up the store. Still, I conferred with the other staff. We rang up the actual manager and got approval to close early. So we get everything ready and done, pack up, and begin closing up the front and the bus, and a very angry man in a red and blue jacket pull in. He practically leaps down from the bus and races across the parking lot towards our door. At which point I smile at him, lock the door, and turn the open sign off. Then closed the blinds and we all filed out the back. He was still beating on the door as we got into our cars and left. 135 comments. Award. Share. Save. 31 people here. If you're enjoying this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Story 4. $1. 3K. R. Malicious Compliance. Posted by you, Mr. Ludgem. 1 day ago. No water. No work. MOC. My former employer was a quite large metal treatment company, and as you can imagine, it's hard. Hot and heavy work. Well, the manager of this factory, I can only assume, has the world's tiniest penis and feels the need to stamp his authority whenever he gets a chance. His number 2 is the lapdog type who just blindly follows what the big boss says, even if it's an awful idea. I have way too many stories of ridiculous things that went on in my time there. Anyway, as was usual at this place, we all get pulled into the break room for a braid. Basically just where we all get told how rubbish we are and all the wonderful things the company does for us. His best example was like making sure we all get paid, to which my response was, well, if you didn't, we would NTB here. So how is that doing such a great thing for us? This particular week we are told for some reason that we have no respect for the facilities and keeping things lean because we have our water bottles put on the various desks throughout the shop floor. We asked for a designated place to put them then, to which we are told it's now a health and safety issue. So we all go back and forth questioning whether we aren't allowed to drink water on shift. Obviously the boss and his lapdog see this is completely not allowed. So they say, oh no, but you have to go to the break room to get a drink if you feel thirsty. Very well. Every single one of us on shift will go to the break room to get a drink of water whenever we are feeling dehydrated. I was the supervisor at the time and got the other 2 supervisors on board with me. So told all of the guys that every one of them had to go get a drink at least once every 30 minutes. To make sure they weren't dehydrated in this dangerous environment. Totaling about 14 or 15 drink breaks per man. Minimum. Each taking approximately 5 minutes by the time they leave their station and return. Losing over 1 hour of production per man. Well, obviously this had a major impact on the productivity of the line. By the second day I was pulled aside by the lapdog and told the guys were taking the piss. I responded, well, they're only being responsible and looking after their own health and safety. That's what you want, isn't it? You don't want someone passing out and causing an accident, do you? This continued for another 3 days or so before there was not only a complete U-turn of the drinks bottle situation, but we used it to get the company to install water machines on every station in the factory. Apparently the so-called health and safety issue was no longer an issue. In the end, the big boss's tiny ego cost the company tens of thousands in production and thousands in water machine installations. 62 comments. Award. Share. Save. 10 people here. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on.